be Kirk Wilson. Kirk's recent work has appeared in Confrontation, Eclipse, Volley, Meridian, Midway Journal, The New Guard Literary Review, River Tea, which received a Pushcart nomination, Soundings East, and the Wordstock 10 anthology. A chapbook of his poems, The Early Word, was published by Burning Death Press. Kirk's nonfiction book, Unsolved, an investigation into 10 high-profile murders, has been published in 6 editions in the U.S. and U.K. His website is kirkwilsonbooks.com. Please help me welcome Kirk.
Thank you, Kirk. Okay, I'm going to read from a novel that I'm working on, and to follow it, you may need a little introduction, so I'm going to read a pitch for it. The working title is A Myth for Our Time. A Myth for Our Time is the story of a celebrity author who leads a solitary but complicated life. Solitary, that is, in the eyes of the world. He does have companions that no one else sees. A troublesome doppelganger, an incommunicative succubus, a being who lives in mirrors and only knows the 4 words in English that form his existential question, and the protagonist of his series of thrillers, an action figure hero who is more famous than his creator. The situation takes a tragic turn when the author's father vanishes, along with all the livestock and barnyard fowl that surrounded him on his small ranch. The author sets out to do the only thing he knows to save his parent. He attempts to write him back into existence, using his celebrated character as his surrogate and ally. So as you can see, it's fairly straightforward. I'm going to read a part where we meet one of these invisible characters. Things weren't always perfect between my father and me. I'm not sure how much of that is my responsibility. Early on, I became aware that I wasn't the only one inhabiting my body. The other inhabitant was a roommate of sorts, an odd couple kind of roommate who might disappear for long stretches and reappear more or less at random, sometimes when needed and more often when unwelcome. We brought vastly different talents and skill sets to the table of us. I was the creative one, the retiring one, the thinker. He was the go-getter, not exactly the man of action, but the decidedly more social animal. In the beginning, I was a little afraid of my roomie. I'll never forget the first time he emerged. I had always been an introverted child, the kind who keeps 1,000 words churning in his head at any moment, but only speaks a couple. And then, in response to a question or a need. The first day of school was the biggest challenge of my life. The classroom was terrifying. There couldn't have been more than 15 or 20 other children, but I had never been among a crowd so large. All my experience provided was the deep silence of the ranch and the taciturn company of my father. But when the teacher asked the question about the adventures of Dick and Jane, my hand shot up. And when she called on me, I spat out an answer in competitive staccato, defeating the room. Later, when the class was set free in the packed dirt of the schoolyard, I found myself out chattering the others in an eager display of my superiority. I didn't know what to think. A few years later, after considerable experience with my alter ego, I read Poe's story, William Wilson, and learned what I was dealing with. Wilson's double, I found, could be described by one of those wonderfully expressive German words, doppelganger. Mine was not so much the traditional kind, since most doppelgangers are physical duplicates, and my guy and I had to negotiate the world through the same sense organs and reach for our desires with the same rack of fingers. But I liked the word. The distancing effect of the doppelganger fit perfectly. But there was a problem. When I began using the word, he took offense and struck back by referring to me in a disparaging tone as the human. I asked him what he might prefer to be called, and without any hesitation, he said, Teddy. So Teddy it has always been. Teddy and I irritated one another all those years we shared a small space, but we were used to it. We were never what you would call friends or anything like brothers, but at least we kept each other company. It would be hard not to, living in the same body. When we would lie in bed together there in that room we grew up in on the ranch, that was when we told each other what we knew as the truth. Teenage boys are given to lying a lot of the time, or maybe just saying what they can manage to say and knowing that what they have uttered cannot possibly contain the truth. Sensation is like spitting, when what you need to communicate is the ocean, the 5 oceans. Maybe this is what we all do, all the time. But in the darkness of our room, when we were supposed to be sleeping, it was somehow easier to speak the truth, and the truth of a certain night during our junior year of high school was that we both wished to be physically intimate with a particular classmate of ours, one Robin Schumacher. It was that rare thing on which we were in near total agreement. Masturbating in the presence of an incorporated doppelganger is a complicated act. Fantasies collide. Negotiations can be required, with a dampening effect on the proceedings. Robin Schumacher was a cheerleader, with the effervescent personality and the clean, orthodox good looks required for election to that office. After a persistent campaign marked by a degree of discipline that was unusual for him, Teddy persuaded Robin to join us in the date to the Bronco Drive-In Theater. This represented a small coup. While Teddy might have dated anybody without me along, no cheerleader worthy of her pom-poms wanted to be seen out with my half of our person. We had recently discovered the integrating powers of alcohol. With enough of that substance in our bloodstream, we could feel united. The sauce had the power to settle our internal conflicts temporarily and give us the illusion that we were one. The night of the date is one of several from our youth that still washes me with remorse. Teddy and I warmed up for the evening by becoming revoltingly drunk on spiced rum. We liked the parrot on the label. After the movie, I couldn't tell you what it was, in a miserable attempt at seduction, we had shouted over one another like pickled candidates at a debate, him babbling Valentine inanities, and me declaiming Macbeth's soliloquy about the walking shadow. We crashed my father's truck into the brick wall of a store and broke Robin's nose as she bounced off the dash. I don't remember what happened when we took Robin home. It couldn't have been pretty. But I know we arrived at the ranch with our shirt in one hand, soaked with the blood it had gathered when we took it off and gave it to Robin to hold against her face. My father stood blocking our way through the kitchen, a bigger and much stronger man then, and waited for an explanation. "Don't say a word," one of us slurred at him. "Don't you say one word," and tried to hold up our index finger for emphasis, but failed. In its place, our middle finger rose up, inches from his nose, a slip to make Dr. Freud proud. "This is what we think of you in your gone world and the way you live," is what that gesture said. I knew it, and so did my father. For some reason, we kept the finger erect longer than was necessary to make that message clear. I remember how our drunkenness caused it to weave across his face. He spent a long minute looking past the moving finger into our eyes. I registered the hurt pooling up in him, but not a hint of anger. He could have broken us to pieces. Other men would have, but he only walked to his room and shut the door.